Jon Trickett is the Shadow Cabinet Office Minister and he joins us now from Westminster. What's to be done?
Well, look, the first thing is we need to make sure these public service contracts are honoured. 50 prisons, 200 operating theatres in hospitals and all sorts of other services now in some risk. The government must immediately guarantee that those services will continue. I'm having reports already of workers being laid off all over the country. The government must act. I've been warning them for some months now this was going to happen. And then secondly, we need to review the way in which we hand over really huge amounts of money to profit-making companies who cream off the profits and then just leave the debts with the public sector. And that is unacceptable. And then thirdly, we have to have an explanation from the government why they went into this open-eyed, knowing the state of Carillion, but failed to stop the contracts flowing across. This is taxpayers' money and it's a disaster.
But they're not using taxpayers' money to bail them out, and they are confident that all of the contracts that they went into, like we've just heard with Balfour Beatty, that the slack is going to be picked up by the other companies working alongside.
Well, let's see what happens. I'm very worried about the supply chain. You know, all those small firms working in the building industry and elsewhere, used by Carillion, can they stand the debts which they're going to not be paid now? I am worried about this and also about the jobs, but more importantly, hundreds of thousands of people depend on the public services which Carillion was supposed to be provided, and the government knew the company was in trouble, as we've just heard, and yet failed to stop any further contracts being handed over. It is a disaster, I'm sorry to say that.
The government says it did due diligence. What do you think went wrong?
Well, when they say they did due diligence, what it means is they looked at the company's accounts. They knew that the company was in trouble and continued to hand over contracts because they had other objectives in mind. Honestly, I think we need a full inquiry into this. But the first thing is we need immediate action. And I think some of these services will have to be brought back into the public service immediately, because we can't have hospitals, surgeries closing in the middle of this NHS crisis, the same with schools, and clearly we can't have prisons which are not being managed. So some of these services will need to be immediately brought back in-house, it seems to me.
Yeah, we've heard Sky News has done a bit of research with the NHS this morning. It appears that the NHS not being as heavily impacted as perhaps other public service. The majority of the contracts, it seems, for hospitals are for catering, cleaning, porters and maintenance, and that the NHS sources are saying that trusts have contingency plans in place. So at least mercifully it does appear that the implications for the NHS might be minimal.
Well, let me just put this to you. A hospital which is not being cleaned, let's say that's all that they're doing in a hospital, it's not a safe place to be. So we may say, well, cleaners are not so important. Actually, they are. But I'm told that there are also operating theatres up and down the country. 6 hospitals being managed by Carillion. Look, I think we need a full statement in the House this afternoon from the government. I was asking questions last Wednesday. I didn't get satisfactory answers, and we must have them today.
Do you think that the government should now spend taxpayers' money on sorting this out, or do you think that they're right to stand back and say this is Carillion's problem, Carillion needs to do it?
Well, look, the government itself has made these disastrous decisions to continue handing contracts over, taxpayers' money, to a firm they knew was going bust. I'm not surprised that they're saying that. And let's see where we finish up. But I'm not in favour of any further money going into Carillion itself, which has been deplorably managed. By the way, they've had 3 separate chief executives recently, and as long ago as 2015, the shares were being sold off. Look, this has been a long time coming, and it's time that the government immediately acted today to save the services and protect the jobs and pensions.
What about retendering? Do you think that should happen in some of these locations?
I think the easiest, well, look, quite a lot of this work is in the private sector. How that's handled is up to the liquidators, and I hope that's done quickly because so many people depend on Carillion for work and for services. But for public services, the easiest way is to simply say we'll bring them back in-house. I mean, prisons ought to be run by the public service, not for profit. It just seems to me so basic that is the case, that it not to have been done in the first place. So we're looking for these services to come back in-house into the public service straight away.
And what about pensions? The pensions regulator is telling Carillion pension holders not to be alarmed. Are you confident that they won't then lose out?
I'm not confident yet. I think we need to know more about the pensions. It's almost £1 billion. And there again, if the government is saying there's no taxpayers' money going in, how are they going to protect the pensions of the workforce? And clearly, all of this need not have happened had the government acted speedily and in time many months ago when this problem first emerged.
OK, Jon Trickett, good to talk to you. Thanks very much.